This video is going to age me 100 years. Hi friends, it's Jordan and welcome back to my channel. Today we are moving forward with the celebration of 10 years on BookTube. In 2025, I've officially been on BookTube for 10 years, and each month throughout the year, I'm making it a celebration. We are reflecting, we are reminiscing, and we are also looking forward and kind of, assessing my channel after it's been live and in the world for 10 years. And so for this video today, this is actually, I don't know, at this point, maybe the 6th time I've filmed this video. I seriously don't think I can do another version of this. So if you don't see this one, it's just not happening. I wanted to, revisit things about my channel that are like staples throughout the years. And one of those is tags. Tags were a very big prevalent part of BookTube back in 2015 when I started. They were things that we did weekly and regularly on our channels. It was a great way to meet people, being tagged to do all these different things, or being able to search for new friends and new creators to follow by searching tags that were trendy at that time. It was a really great tool to use to meet people, and I thought it'd be fun to reflect back on my very first ever book tag, which is the coffee book tag. And as I've mentioned, I've already filmed this video like 6 times. I keep having an issue with the screen recording portion of it, so I can pop it up here and you can watch it with me and, react together. That is giving me all the kinds of issues. So hopefully today, 6th time is the charm, and we'll get it. I'll get audio, I'll get visual, I'll get the whole thing, and it'll be great. If I'm not reacting immensely to the choices made in this video, it is because I already know what they are, and I've already reacted to them like 5 other times. I'm persevering regardless. Should I do a test run? Let's make sure it has sound. No sound. Okay, see? That was important information to know. How do I get it to have sound? Why is this all of a sudden like an issue that I can't seem to figure out? Again, no sound. Why is all of a sudden I can't get sound through the screen recordings? What am I doing wrong? Did I actually figure it out? No. Am I going to just do it on my phone? We're gonna try it. This is the method I tried the first time, and it didn't work. So welcome back to my channel, and today I am here to bring you the coffee book tag. No, I was not tagged in this, but I don't care. I love coffee and I love books, so I'm gonna do what I want. Those things. Oh. Who says I can't? Who says I can't? Even though I have watched this so many times, that clip still always gets me. Why are we being so combative to the camera? No one is coming after you. This tag was originally created by Bangity Bangs, and I first saw it done by Kat from Cattytastic, so I will link both of those videos down below for you guys. I have 8 bookish questions inspired by 8 various hot coffee type beverages. That is such a traditional talking rhythm that I have in my earlier videos, and I still do it to this day, 10 years later. If my thought process isn't going as fast as I would like it to, or if I'm having a hard time deciding on words, I'll start to say things like really stunted like that, because my brain is moving faster than my mouth really knows what it wants to do. It creates this really weird talking cadence. Beverages. So let's get started. Question 1, black coffee. Name a series that's tough to get into but has some hardcore fans. For this one, black coffee. She sounds like so funny. Okay, I already know the answer to what I say 10 years ago. It's still the same answer as I've said in every single iteration of this video. Vampire Academy by Rochelle Mead. This is a book that drops you in with a lot of lore and a lot of new terms and a lot of different words that are not common to our world at all. Obviously it's about vampires, but it's not even like vampires as we know them. There's these different tiers and different ways that you can become a vampire, and different vampires have different powers and different abilities and things. So it's a lot to digest, and you're not really given a whole lot of information when the book starts. You're just kind of dropped into it, and you have to figure out as you go. And for a YA book, it's really hard to get into, and I feel like it makes the story hard to get invested in, because I felt I was lost for a good portion of this book, and I don't feel like that really gets smoothed out until book 3. And it really shouldn't take 3 to 4 books in a 6-book series to get into it, but books 1 and 2 struggle with this a lot. And I know this is the same thing that I say in 2015. This was something that everybody was talking about. It was a really die-hard large readership, but it was a really hard series to get into for like almost no reason other than kind of bad writing.
I'm going to go with The Vampire Academy by Rochelle Mead. I just read this book. I found it really hard to get into. Like, I read it, it was enjoyable. I read it in a couple days, but I did not finish it with the unquenchable desire to go get Frostbite. I'm okay with not reading Frostbite for a while, but I will continue to read this series because everybody talks about it and is obsessed with it.
It's one of those things where like you want to know why everyone else loves it so much, and you read it and you're like, I don't get it, but like I still so badly want to know, so you just keep pushing through it. Not every reader has this experience, but I often have this experience where I don't want to be unincluded. I'll keep reading despite not maybe enjoying what it is I'm reading, and Vampire Academy was, in like its initial books, was that experience for me.
It has some hardcore serious fans. It's just not all that fantastic in my opinion. Question 2, Peppermint Mocha. Name a coffee beverage that gets more popular as the seasons change and holiday time comes around.
So I feel like there's two ways I could go with this question, so I'm going to give you an answer for both. I find this a very common theme both in 2015 and 2025. But I feel like there's 2 times of year where I really gravitate towards specific things, and that's in the summer and in the fall. So in the summer, I'm really looking for like a good beach read. Quintessentially, obviously one named beach read fits the bill. I'm looking for summer romances. I'm looking for like vacation, cottage, like summer beachy reads. So like specifically in the setting, I kind of want I'm going to absolutely rage. I have no more words for what I'm feeling inside my body right now. Okay, the camera is now acting up. Back to what I was saying. I don't need the content to necessarily be a lighthearted, like beachy, I don't want to say simple because that is like diminishing to a lot of books and such, but I don't need it to be like just a lighthearted romance. I can take some substance, I can take some confrontation, I can take harder topics, but I just want the setting to overall be like very summery, very beachy vibes, very like lake vibes. So that's what I look for in the summer. Similarly, in the fall, I want thriller, I want mystery, I want a little spook. I don't want horror, but I do want something that's going to keep me on the edge of my seat, something that matches the rainy, foggy like aesthetic that comes with the fall time, especially in the Midwest. We get a lot of rainy, dreary days, and I want to match that vibe. This would be a really good option that I would pick up at that time. This is a story about gentrification. Over time, as more and more white people move in, their neighbors that have been there with them are going missing, and they're trying to figure out what's happening to the neighbors of the town, of the neighborhood, and why, like, with the influx of white people, things are happening to them.
For this one, I have 2 because I can't pick just one thing. I have to cheat and pick more than one. So that's what I'm gonna do. And my first pick is My True Love Gave to Me, which is a collection of short stories by various contemporary authors. This book was so popular this past Christmas. Everybody talked about it. And I can just...
I'm about to say, I've said in every iteration of this video, but like, was this book ever that popular? I cannot remember. Like, I don't remember it being what I think it was at the time. It had its moment. It was popular for that year, that holiday season, but has it stood the test of time? I really don't think so. I've certainly never reread it.
I go back to read my favorite short stories from this collection. My second one is the most obvious answer ever, of course, Harry Potter. What about this makes me want to read it during Christmas time? I have no idea. But every time that Christmas comes around, I find myself more and more drawn to Harry Potter and to reread it. I don't because I don't have time.
I've mentioned this before too, but like specifically the very first Harry Potter is very nostalgic for me. My mom read that book to me every night before bed, and the vibes of the first one in particular, for whatever reason, make me think of Christmas. It doesn't sit as happily in my feelings as it did 10 years ago.
Read 7 books that I've already read when I have 70 books that I need to read. Not 70, but I have a lot of books that I need to read, so I have not committed myself to rereading Harry Potter yet. Every time winter comes around, I'm finding myself wanting to reread this series. Question number 3, Hot Chocolate. What is your favorite children's book? Obviously,
I know I'm going to say Harry Potter again, but because we are boycotting J.K. Rowling because she's a terrible human of the earth, I don't know what made her become such an awful person. Read does that to you. If you are looking for some other options to read instead of Harry Potter and you still want the vibes of like a magical, whimsical young kid going off to school, learning their powers, learning a magical society, I would highly recommend Nevermore by Jessica Townsend. This is following an 11-year-old girl who on her 11th birthday, she's supposed to die. She's cursed. She does get whisked away to this magical land called Nevermore, and she has these special quirks and powers that could bring the end of that society crashing down. You know, it could end the whole society. There are some others like her in history that have done just that, and so they're grappling with what to do with this 11-year-old who is supposed to come into immense power, but she's also just like a quirky little kid. And she's 11 and she's just trying to make friends. This is the first book in so far 3 that are out, and then there's a 4th one coming out this year. And if you want something fun in middle grade but not necessarily in the vein of like a magical school, I would recommend Wings of Fire by T. Sutherland. This is a story following dragons. So like the dragons are from different lands. We have like sand and rainforest and ice dragons. And in this first one, there's prophecy, and we're following our 5 main dragons as they are attempting to fulfill this prophecy. I've only read the first 2 books in the series. There's like 15, but they're in 5 book arcs. They have like little characters and they all have different, you know, traits because they live in different parts of the land. And I'm trying to find the map because it's an actual dragon. Their land is dragon shaped. It's just a fun, you know, if you like How to Train Your Dragon, or I've never seen Avatar, but like I feel like this would be the same thing as Avatar.
I would pick Harry Potter, but I'm not going to repeat it, although this is an honorable mention, Harry Potter right now. But my other favorite story would be the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series by Rick Riordan. I love these books so very much. They're so witty and sarcastic and just adventurous, and regardless of how old you are, you will like these books. My mom read them and she's in her 40s.
I do still believe that. Regardless of what age you are, you can enjoy Percy Jackson. It has such a everlasting quality to it. There are ways to connect to the story regardless of how old you are, and feelings that Percy has that are just so relatable, and large parts of your childhood that even as an adult reading back on it, you remember, like I do remember feeling that way. Like I do remember experiencing that emotion or like that situation with friends and whatever. I still think that regardless of age, Percy Jackson is a really relatable story. And there's like a whole bunch of stories to choose from now that it's so many series.
I read them when I was in my teen years and I loved them. You could have your mom read them to you if you are too young to read, and you would still love them. However old you are, you will love them. There is something in these books for every age group. Question number 4, double shot of espresso. Name a book that kept you on the edge of your seat from start to finish.
A book that kept me on the edge of my seat from start to finish. The most recent one that comes to mind is The Only One Left by Riley Sager. This is his novel from 2 years ago, I believe. We're following 2 timelines, one in the 1920s and one in the 1980s. In the 1920s, we're following this character, Lenora Hope, who is the daughter of like a very wealthy family in this town in Maine. One fateful night, she murders her whole family. However, she's never convicted of the crime, so she's been free walking amongst the public for the last 60 years. There are some potential reasons that she was never convicted, because maybe she didn't actually do it. 60 years later, we have our main character who works for like a home health nursing agency, and she has some ghosts in her past too. Some things that have happened at previous jobs that make her an undesirable candidate for other nursing positions. So she takes whatever she can get. And in this case, it's Lenora Hope. She has to be the new caretaker for this infamous family mass, murder situation. She goes to stay with Lenora and starts poking around the mansion. The mansion has this very creepy feeling. It's on the edge of a cliff. It's slowly eroding into the sea, and things are happening, and she's unraveling a mystery while also trying to care for this like 90-year-old woman. It was fantastic. I love the dual timeline. It's one of my favorite things in books. I loved the 1980s setting. I loved the 20s setting. I loved it was just one of my favorite Riley Sager books that I've read recently. This one and Lock Every Door are my 2 favorites.
This book did take me about 150 pages to get into, so I wouldn't say
I always forget about this book.
Keeping me on my edge of my seat from start to finish.
Even though I've watched this video so many times, I keep forgetting this is the answer that I have for this question because I forget I've ever read these books.
This book is the answer to this question because it gave me such anxiety. I literally was pacing while reading this book.
I remember
pacing
very
around my dorm
vividly
room,
reading this book in college.
The anxiety level was just too much to handle, and that is The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo
I
by
forget
Steve
about
Larson.
it, right?
This book
Don't you
caused
forget about
me
it?
so much freaking anxiety. I was just like, couldn't sit still while reading this book. I finished it and I was like shaking. Like I said, it takes like 150 pages to get into the story, but once you're into the story, don't read this book if you have anxiety issues because it will cause you more. And the second, third, and fourth answer to this question, any of Gillian Flynn's novels. These books are so creepy, are so twisted, and so terrifying. Any one of these would keep you.
I had just discovered Gillian Flynn at this time. I had just read all of her books and I was obsessed. Little did I know that I would never get another book from her. It's been 10 years and we've not gotten another full-length novel from her. I read them all within the span of a few months. I had no idea.
You on the edge of your seat. My favorite one I think would have to be Dark Places by Gillian Flynn. You want a thriller. If you want a double shot of espresso in book form, these would do it for you.
Those are not for the faint of heart. Those are very dark, very gruesome, very unsettling novels, often involving young children, younger teens. So just be warned if they're older books now, so I feel like most people who would have wanted to read them have already read them. If you're just getting into the mystery thriller game because you're a Frida McFadden fan, I haven't read any of her books, but be warned. There is some like gruesome child things happening in some of these books.
For you. Question number 5, Starbucks. Name a book that you see everywhere. My pick.
This is such a weird question every time that I see this. Why did I pick Cinder? Like, I don't know. It's such a weird one. But nowadays, I would say A Court of Mist and Fury. Wait, no, what is this? A Court of Thorns and Roses. Because this book is literally everywhere. You can't go to any bookstore, any airport bookstore, any grocery store, anywhere without seeing this book. It's literally become such a like cultural phenomenon, not so much just even like a book space phenomenon, that people who aren't even in the book space know what this is, which is a wild 180 from when this came out 10 years ago, and only people in the book space knew about it. Now she's on like Good Morning America and the Today Show, which is just like such a wild ride from where we started with this book 10 years ago. Every coworker that I have that doesn't even read knows what these are and has recommended these to me. So this is truly a book that I feel like has become everywhere. In the same vein as like Twilight and Harry Potter, which is so just, again, crazy to think because it was just like a little cute internet book for a while.
In this book at Target, at Walmart, at Barnes & Noble for years.
And it's so funny because I don't know that Cinder's had that same like staying power. I don't know that the Lunar Chronicles is still as popular in book spaces or like outside of bookish spaces the way that Sarah J. Maas has become.
Picked it up, never read it. And then I started watching BookTube, and everybody, the community of BookTube has read this, but it was everywhere, especially since winter comes out this year. It was following me. I wish I would have read it sooner because it was so good and everybody on BookTube loves it so much. Question number 6, that hipster coffee shop. Give an indie book author a shout out.
So the only indie book that I have on my shelf is this one by Katie Robert, which is A Worthy Opponent. This is the 3rd book in her Wicked Villains series. This is the series that she has where each story is based off like a Disney couple or character. So this one is Captain Hook and Tinkerbell, but they're also like very smutty romance novels. Yes, they are like Disney inspired, but they're not for children. The first one follows Jafar and Jasmine. The second one is Hades, Meg, and Hercules. And we're following like this sex club operation thing, and all these different characters work in the sex club or like have a rivalry with the sex club. I can't remember, it's been a while since I've read the last one. I read Learn My Lesson years ago, and that was the second book before this. There's like content warnings about like abusive partners and stuff, so just, you know, be warned going into these. They're not, you know, cute Disney retellings. I've enjoyed the two that I've read from her. I really like Katie Robert as a romance author. I know that she's become much more popular, and I think these books have been picked up to be traditionally published and like have new covers and stuff.
I've read any books by any indie authors, so I'm going to change this question a little bit. I'm going to tweak it to be name a book that you read before everybody else. So,
okay, you can see the book. Hold on.
My hipster book that I read before everybody else is The Poison Princess by Kresley Cole. I have never heard anybody talk about it.
My hipster book that I read before anybody else. I don't think anybody actually ever read this book. So I don't even know if that could be called a hipster book. Like a true hipster book would be this. I read this before everybody else, okay? Accept it. You know, I did. I don't know if anybody else read this series. It's a very fun series. It's about a tarot card game that comes to life after the apocalypse, but it also follows teenagers who are betrothed to 1,000-year-old men, and then they get pregnant, and like they're fulfilling some kind of prophecy, destiny, and you know, it's a lot of like alpha male vibes. I don't know if 10 years later I would like that book. And I don't know if I would recommend that book to people anymore. But at the time, I was very obsessed.
Yes, there is a lot of romance and tension, and it kind of can distract you from the storyline a little bit.
Okay, I will say the later books in this series become romance only, and like they literally, a whole book will last like one day. Because it's just so romance soup almost. The plot becomes non-existent. Like it's thrown out the window entirely, all in the name of the romance.
Question number 7. Oops, I accidentally got decaf. What's the point of coffee if it's going to be decaf? Name a book that you were expecting more from. Allegiant.
Oh, yes, Allegiant. Yes, very true. But actually, something that I was expecting a lot more from were both of the most recent Taylor Jenkins Reid novels, Carrie Soto is Back and Malibu Rising. I was a huge fan of Daisy Jones and the Six and Evelyn Hugo, and these are part of that same decades series that she did where we have a book taking place in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. But these last two just don't have the same emotional impact, in my opinion, that the first two have. These are less like romance relationship focused. Like I do feel like a big reason that the first two were so successful for me were the relationships that were at the forefront with Evelyn Hugo and also with Daisy and Billy. And I really felt like those drove those books and like were really the heart of those books so deeply, and like it really, I don't know, it created this amazing vehicle to explore the decade and like what was happening in that decade, but then also having these characters to root for and this relationship to root for, and like all the toxicity that comes with relationships of fame and in those time periods. And I feel like these just missed that romance aspect. Like Carrie Soto and I don't even remember who is in this book, don't really have like romances to root for in the same way. And also this one's a little bit more sports leaning. Here we're following a family of surfers. Here we're following a tennis player. I'm not the biggest fan of athlete stories, I've discovered once reading these two. I liked the musician and the Hollywood music aspect, movie star aspect of the first two. And the sports stories just didn't do it for me because it felt much more focused on the winning and the competition and the sports vibes than like the relationship. And maybe it was their relationship with the sport and the game and whatever. And it just didn't work for me the same way that the other two did. And then this one's more familial sibling dynamics, I think worked more for me than this, but I literally don't remember anything about this other than a house fire. I expected more from these, and I am going to read her newest release, Atmosphere, which is not related to this like decade story thing that she was doing. I feel like Atmosphere will kind of be the tipping point on whether or not I read more from her in her future works coming out, or if I just accept that Daisy and Evelyn were the exception to the overall rule of not enjoying her books. You know, those two were just not my favorite. I expected more.
It's by Veronica Roth.
As I did from Allegiant too.
I hate this whole book. I used to love Divergent and Insurgent, and I read this book and it ruined it for me. So now when people talk about the Divergent series, I pretend this book didn't even exist. But I don't just hate it for the reason y'all think I hate it. I hate it because the entire book was just...
That was the first time I really experienced being disappointed by a book. I had had really good luck with enjoying what I was reading up until this point. Like, I enjoyed The Hunger Games, I enjoyed Twilight, I enjoyed The Mortal Instruments. All of those things had endings that were very fulfilling to me, that I enjoyed at the time. And this was the first time when I was confronted with a conclusion to a series that was like deeply, deeply unfulfilling. And I really struggled with that feeling. I've experienced it a lot more since then, but this was the first time where I was like, oh, so things can go wildly awry in the last book of a series. Like, it could go so badly. And that was new news to me.
Expected so much more from this series than I got. I hate this book so much, and I really wanted to love it. Veronica Roth, you let me down. Question number 8, the perfect blend. Name a book or series that was both bittersweet but ultimately satisfying.
So I'm actually going to name the most recent book that I finished, which was Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey. Yeah, that was correct. This was beautiful and bittersweet and fulfilling and emotionally heart-wrenching and thought-provoking and so intentionally written and beautiful. And I just got like every emotion on the spectrum feels from this book. It was our House Salt book club pick for April. We do have a whole live show if you want to go watch all of us discuss it. There is some really beautiful interwoven plant nature themes with the characters, and each character representing different parts of nature and different ways in which nature manifests itself, and like they're personified through these different animals and plants. And Connor goes on this whole tangent about it, and it's beautiful. And I never would have noticed that if not for Connor pointing it out, how the animals and the plants are connected to our characters and how they explain their life journeys, and how as the book goes on, the like way that we view plants, and it talks about like climate change and the ecosystem. And it was just, I will think about this book forever. It was so thought-provoking, and just the way in which she incorporated everything into it was so beautiful. And I loved this. I feel like the longer I'm away from it, I want to bump it up to 5 stars, because I still think about it, and I still think like, do I reread this? Is this a book that I like am gonna end up rereading? I was so impressed, and then the ending is just so sad. So, you know, like, but then so hopeful too, and it just feels like this little slice of life on this little like slice of land. I don't know, it's beautiful. And I cried in the live show, and it was amazing, and I just, yes, those are my thoughts.
Clockwork Princess by Cassandra Clare. This book was perfect.
So conversely to Allegiant, this book met every expectation that I had for how a finale should be. So, you know, like 2 ends of the finale spectrum here. We have Allegiant and Clockwork Princess, arguably one of the best conclusions I've ever read, and the worst conclusion I've ever read.
This series was perfect. I read the initial Mortal Instruments series first, and then I read this series alternating with it.
I truly don't know if there is a finale worse than Allegiant that I have read. Like, that was truly such a bad finale.
Second half of the Mortal Instruments series, finished this book and preferred this to Mortal Instruments because it was just so satisfying. She ended it perfectly. This is how a conclusion book should be. This
As
book
I was saying,
was sad and funny and just bitter and sweet and perfect and wonderful, and it made me so happy. And I probably cried when I finished this book because it was everything I wanted it to be. She wrapped up the love triangle in the most perfect way, and nothing...
The first time Cassandra Clare thought about doing a throuple and chickened out. She chickened out. And then she does one later, which I also love.
About this book made me sad. Well, I mean, I was sad while reading it, but I wasn't upset with anything that she did in this book. I, too, have a fangirl crush on William Herondale. I love him.
I said that so straight-faced into the camera. What a creep.
Boys love me a bad boy with a sweet center.
Oh my god.
The
Ew.
perfect blend. truly, truly was. And that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.
Oh my, and that's it. That is the coffee book tag. Those are my answers from 2015 and how I would change them for 2025. Have you done this tag before? Do you remember this tag when it was going around 10 years ago? How would you answer things 10 years ago versus now? Are you surprised by any of my answers? I'm asking you too many questions. You don't need to answer all those in the comments down below, but if you wanted to, I'd appreciate it. But you don't have to, that's a lot of questions. If you want to follow me anywhere else on the internet, you can follow me on Instagram and Blue Sky. Handles are here below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, I will talk to you very soon. Bye!